Yo, what's up? What is up, good people? I know. They've been probably holding out notifications on you. We get it. We get it. Hey, uh, hey, I don't know how many times I got to tell you. I told you so. I told you so. Right as rain, baby. Right as rain. You see, okay. They talking about the new format. Sorry that came through. You sending me a message. Well, the world doesn't seem to understand how certain things can be a domino effect. And what is looked at as a perception of reality, a warped perception of reality, by the way, it can lead to people not understanding the process of how things are proceeding moving forward, like a cause and effect of action. So many of you are not even aware of said scenarios and current developments that are happening or showing up. Now, all y'all remember the firings. Y'all remember the firings more than anything. Cam gone. Like we told you, he was going to be next. Ryan Clark was going to be next. I mean, we all saw that was coming. Like it was no surprise when he was the first to go in the fashion it did. But when Ryan was gone, everybody jumped to a new position. We're going to explain why that is. Now, when everyone jumped into a new position, many people was blown away by it. They were not prepared. They didn't understand it. They thought it was pretentious. And they said, well, this is unfair. Why would Ryan Clark have to go and Cam Newton? A place that doesn't have a lot of diversity, known for having conflicts. Why was this the case? Was it all business? Yeah, there's business, but there's also some things behind it. Yes, there's a business that takes place, but there's also another side of it that they don't discuss. Now, when Cam Newton and everything went down the way it did, many people had a lot of reservations. They had things they wanted to discuss about it. How did this happen under the nose of all of these people there? Like these people are essential to making this thing grow. In the podcast space, the podcast business, there have been great people who have come along and done amazing things as far as sports world, entertainment, business, the whole shebang bang. But one thing is a constant. When you upset the apple cart, everybody remembers it. Everybody remembers it. They never remember all the good things you do. It's the one time you didn't do what you were supposed to do or what they expected you to do. They never forget that. They never forget all the good things you did. They never gonna forget that. I mean, they will forget that. But the bad stuff, oh boy, that's gonna stick with you forever like luggage. People still got the suitcase they had when they was a little kid. Nobody throw away luggage. Luggage just live forever. Now, how many of y'all that's in this game actually know who that man is? That man in the photo is Burt Mangus. And Burt is the CEO of sports programming on ESPN. He's the boss. Him and Jimmy Pitaro are the two bosses at ESPN. Not only are they the two bosses at ESPN, that guy, Burt Mangus, everybody can have their opinions about it, but that is the man that pulled the trigger to not only fire Ryan Clark, but Cam Newton also. Now, contrary to what people believe, there are people who believe that ESPN is pro diversity and more diverse than any other place that you've ever seen. And that's just not true. You have some people there that are very much conservative, and some of them try to hide their conservativeness. And then you have places that they try to say, well, we don't want politics in our sports, but they push politics in their sports. As Fox News Connected got their own, basically what they call culture, meaning white people only, and it's called the Outkick. And the Outkick is supposed to talk culture, sports, analysts, and everything else. And conservative says, hey, we don't want all that we just want sports. Well, if you want sports, then why do you mix everything else that happens around the world with sports? But you claim you only want sport when it comes from liberal people. You don't want to hear them talk. That's very interesting. So Burt Mangus pulled the trigger. Not only do we know that, there are people behind the scenes of ESPN that talks. I know a few people that used to work at ESPN. A lot of people still have a great relationship with Burke and felt that Burke actually was very fair to them. But Burke is a two-faced individual. As somebody else said, that Burke is not your friend. Burke pretends to be your friend, but he's not. He's a businessman. And the only person that Burt Mangus is going to confide anything to, or a direction, more than Jimmy, is Stephen A. Smith. Whatever Jimmy and Disney wants to do, it used to be Bob Iger. They still talk to Bob for consulting situations, but he's the guy that confers the information to Stephen A. Smith. It's very rare that Jimmy gonna tell Stephen A. what to do. That's Burt Mangus' job. So Burke is gonna make sure things get done the way they want it done and how they want it done. Who goes where this thing is gonna end up crashing and burning out. So people know that there were email confirmations that they can pretty much confirm, because some of these people have friends at the Outkick. They have friends in all these places. They leaked out that Ryan Clark was going to be fired, and they leaked out hours before it happened that Cam Newton was going to be fired. I knew this was going to happen. That's why I told you in the video. So I said I told you so, because I knew what was going to come. Now, here's the thing. Right-wing sports, exactly. You can just say white, and then that's that. Now, here, what made it a very interesting case. This is what made it so interesting, right? You look at Burt Mangus and you say, well, why would Burt? This is the guy who is the CEO and president. Why is this man leaking out information to the rivals? That is very dangerous. This takes you to a dangerous place. He's that concerned that he would leak out information to the rivals. You know, Fox run Outkick. So if you're on Outkick, you're basically sponsored by Fox. You're good. You're in the clear. Everything is going in your direction. Now, on top of all of that, you're looking at a situation that is so screwed up, it is beyond comprehension. Translation, all the people that was involved in this melee of nonsense, Burt Mangus is going to text his contacts that he have at Outkick and leak the story information about another employee at the company? What? How is that not front page news? All the way around the board. Makes no sense, y'all.
Who shows up at an IMAX theater at 2 a.m?
Now, everyone else involved in this can understand or hear my voice, understand my plight, and reasoning behind certain things that I do, say, and what I illustrate. Most people don't get it. Hey, that is what it is. Stephen A. is his tool here at the job to keep everybody else in line. But Burt Mangus made it his duty to sabotage. Burt Mangus decided he wanted to personally sabotage everything that was going on at ESPN. He made that decision to go that route. He said, this is the direction I'm going in. Sabotage, baby. Get aboard or get aborted. Because he has his vision of what he wants the network to look like. Burt already knows what he's doing. He's not waiting around for somebody else to figure it out. Burt already knows the plan. Like I told you, he's bringing a new change into ESPN now that the NFL has done this deal. They own $3 billion worth of ESPN. So how do you get to such a number? How do you get to, let's say, how do you get to that kind of massive number? Right? How will y'all explain getting to 3 billion, which is 10% of ESPN? And Jimmy Pitaro too. Jimmy Pitaro is the main boss. He's going to go along with whatever going in there. He's from Scanarsie. So let that sink in. But I told y'all all about this guy on the Patreon, Jimmy Pitaro. The whole thing has been designed on race. Sorry to tell you, they hate to play. Everybody blames race. It's business. But race is always around the corner. Listen, Outkick is owned by Fox. Clay Travis started it in 2011. And what does it cover? News, opinion pieces, and all these podcasts from all these conservative people. And they basically love to illustrate that to you and tell you about it. Over and over again, you got Will Kane. Yeah, complete conservative. Right? Does it look like he cares about the black person's point of view? No. You got Tommy Lauren. Yeah, I wonder what she cares about. Then you got Clay and Kelly. I wonder what they care about. Right? All of these conservatives that they throw around and they leak stuff to. It's no loyalty. It's no real anything. It's just trash. They go against the very notion that they claim they're for. And you hear these other conservatives rock around. Well, when I watch sports, I just want my sports. I don't want all the political stuff. Well, then why are you with the conservatives? So all they do is talk political stuff. All they do is complain about the other side. That's all they do. Anybody that do something that doesn't look like them, they complain. Why don't they just focus on their conservatives and call it a day? Because that would defeat the purpose, right? So we get it. They're hypocrites to the third degree. They're even more so than what they say about the liberals. But it's their thing. Now, both sides are full of shit. It's just that one of them is cat shit, one of them is dog shit, you know? So which one, what you want to do? Now, look, let's get into this and break it down to the way it's supposed to be. Now, ESPN has faced criticism in a whole history of laying off black employees. That's right. All their recent layoffs been highlighted with a whole pattern that they got with black on-air personalities, behind the scenes. Their corporate structure has never been around anything that revolves color. They forced the color out the door to bring in somebody else that they claim is fitting their direction. See, they use keywords. Well, our parent company, Disney, and we just kind of go restructure the company and go into a new direction. The new direction does not consist of any diversity representation in the network. Their layoffs prove that. So they got rid of some of the guys that they weren't going to bring back anyway because of their age and their contract. So when they say, well, you can't say it ain't racist. They got rid of some white guys too. It's like, yes, you threw some token white guys in there. Meanwhile, you're still chopping salaries of production assistants and everyone else. You're kicking them and firing them. And these guys work check to check. So Jimmy Pitaro had leaked a memo outlining the reasons of the layoffs, saying financial pressures, and we need a different strategic focus. Now, nothing gets leaked, right? So all of these things go back to Maria Taylor. Where the tape comes out where Rachel Nichols goes off and starts having this conversation on a hot mic on ESPN, where she's talking about she's mad she's got to share the stage with Maria Taylor because ESPN wants to try to cover up their whole whitewashing they've done for years. All these people that's been fired now and all these guys hate it. I mean, used to hate Stuart Scott, the only black man to come in and be a success. Why? Because a lot of you guys believe Stuart Scott became popular on ESPN. That's where he got famous. Wrong. He was on CNN Sports. That's right. CNN used to have sports. He was on a whole nother station and made himself so popular, he ended up in the Source magazine. The Source. All the NBA players and all these people that played in the NBA looked at him and was like, yo, this dude is what's up. I like this dude. This dude to be talking all these. Like, he was doing that on that station and got noticed and put in the Source magazine. Next thing you know, ESPN came calling. Because we recognized Stuart Scott. Then he came in and started doing his own stick. Everybody at ESPN said, oh my God, this is ridiculous. This is what we're resorting to. He faced hate all throughout the company. But there was nothing they couldn't do or get him to do. Because Burke is one of the nice racist guys that work there. He's one of the nicer ones. Oh, they had a guy in there that wasn't so nice. Norby Williamson. If that wasn't a grand master of the Klan, I don't know who was. Norby Williamson was the guy. He hated Stephen A. Him and his group couldn't stand him. Thought he was arrogant, pompous, didn't want him around. Then when he came back, because he really was, he thought he could do, he was Stuart Scott. He had that kind of talent. And he, got close to everybody else. He copied a lot from Stuart Scott. Tried to be cool. And Allen Iverson basically walked him in through the door. From the Philly newspaper to ESPN. He sat down, interviewed him, the whole nine. Got close to Kobe. All the young NBA players got behind Stephen A. More than Stuart Scott. Stuart Scott was more NFL players. Basketball players loved him too, but mostly NFL with Stuart Scott. But he was a journalist. He didn't have time to fraternize. Right. Only guy that can get rid of Norby Williamson and make Norby quit because he couldn't tell Pat McAfee what to do. The only guy that ever came in those ESPN doors, and Norby could not boss around and tell him what he wanted, and they bow down to him. Pat McAfee says, I don't have to answer to you. No, I'm not doing that. Who are you? Some guy named Norby. Who is that? The fact that he said it like that, every black person that worked for ESPN in the past was, oh my God, did he just say that? Like, who's Norby? How do you work there and don't know Norby? They were so scared. Norby Williamson had everybody in there shook. What does being a conservative have to do with this? You must have missed the first part. I'll recap it for you. Now, let's get through it. Because it needs to be said, though it hurts to say. Listen up. The Outkick is ran by Clay Travis, who's a conservative. The Outkick broke out the story about the firings at ESPN before anyone. Who could have gave them that information? The other conservative that works as the CEO and boss of ESPN, Bert Mangus. Everybody at the office know he did it. Well, he's the CEO, or what you could say, vice president of programming, content, and all that stuff. But yeah, he runs the content of the show. But you're going to have racist people at every job you have. It's not going to make a difference. But he was one of the good racist people that I heard there. Yeah, they had program acquisitions and all that stuff. So all of that is Burke. So he basically run the shows. He's the one you're going to see a lot more than you would see Jimmy. But Norby Williamson was in that position also. Norby quit once he could not tell him what to do. Burke always ran the job. He already was doing the job he got promoted for in 2023. All the things, the titles that they give people, that don't even work. They've used him to launch ESPN Plus, was another failure. ESPN Bet, which was another failure. And all this direct-to-consumer priorities from Disney, a lot of it failed. ESPN Bet was just a bad idea, and they kept trying to go along with it. ESPN Plus, dog crap. So now they have oversight of studio shows and live events, investigative journalism, original content with the ESPN films. They have the talent office, which he's also encouraging on, as well as the social media world. So Burke has been there since like 95, around that time. Yeah, I remember he did the Dale Earnhardt, the 3 with Dale Earnhardt. Now, I used to love those 30 for 30s. Now, 30 for 30s, great, outstanding. Everybody who's done 30 for 30, that was the best thing that ever happened to ESPN. Other than that, I can't tell you anything else about it. But that 30 for 30 programming was the best thing they ever came out with. Now, everybody's tried to copy the 30 for 30 formula, which pretty thick because they just made everything look the same. And they deleted and diluted all of the success the show had. Right. WWE just really hoard themselves out because Netflix is like, whoa, this is crazy. We paying a lot of money for this. Yeah. So Stephen A. Smith knew they were going to be fired, but knew he was not. Because Burke's going to need Stephen A. as that token because he needs guys that's on the level. Stephen A. forgot his job. Bring us guys that are like you. Don't bring us these guys that are free-spirited, as they would say in their business terms. He's a free spirit. They want one with shackles on their feet. That's what they want. They don't want a free spirit. Once Cam Newton brought Jason Whitlock on his podcast show, 4th and 1, and interviewed him, he was gone. And it wasn't just because it was Jason Whitlock he interviewed. It was what he said on that show that had him gone. They couldn't control him. Nobody controls me. I love Stephen A. He's my brother, but he can't control me. He can't tell me what to do. Not on my platform. Not on 4th and 1. If I want to sit down and interview this man, that's fine. And Ryan Clark is, how dare you do that after this man does this for you? All that kissing up wasn't going to save you either. Because one thing's for sure, Stephen A. cannot save you. That's one thing Whitlock got correct that a lot of people just didn't realize. Stephen A. can't save you. None of y'all don't really understand it, but Stephen A. can't save anybody. He's not in position to. All you're going to do is suffer under him. And I know there are a lot of people who just don't understand that. And it's all right. I get it. I hear it all the time. People just be like, I just don't get it. Why now? Why did they choose to do this now? Because Cam, more than anybody, Cam knew what he was doing. As we went through yesterday, Cam said, look, I used ESPN as my vehicle. He used them as a vehicle to get where he wanted to go. That was the key. The key is I'm going to build my platform. And then once I build the platform, then we'll go to another level. So let's do it that way. That was how he came in approach of it. His approach was entirely different than anybody else's. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what. There are so many different aspects of what people should be looking towards and what they actually do and what they don't choose to do. Now, when you start looking at insurance payments, all of these different qualities of work and things you want to get towards and work towards in your lifetime, you got to want to make the decisions for yourself. You're going to want to make sure that you're doing everything possible in your stanza to make things happen the way you want. Yeah, well, Cam made the mistake. Cam said, "Can't nobody tell me what to do." No, he didn't really get into too many petty beefs. Besides the mascot, they couldn't control Cam. You don't want anybody working there that you won't be able to control who might say something crazy during the NFL season because now the NFL network is going to be there. So if Cam there, he'll be doing NFL coverage also. They don't want that. The NFL didn't want it, and Burt Mangus definitely didn't want that. Not with this. And Jimmy is right along with him. They're all in comparison. So he had to go. They had to make an example of Cam Newton and get him out of there ASAP. Well, Gil thought he would be hired at ESPN, but he ended up not hired by ESPN. But he would have just been another guy fired. They would have fired Gil by now, so it didn't even matter. But he's burnt down all these companies anyway, so it don't even make a difference. From Underdog, Fubo, Showtime, Playback, Complex, he just burned them all down. So it don't really make a difference. So Burt Mangus has basically laid out a blueprint for y'all. He shows you exactly who he is, what he's about, what he's willing to do, and he don't care. No, no, no. Let's not do that. You see, when you start going in a direction that doesn't make a lot of sense, this is what it this is what it details. right? They want to bring in licensing programming. See, that's the future. Everybody wants to build a show that hopefully a network can buy, and then they can put it on television. Now, as I try to tell people all the time, when they wonder themselves about me and say, oh, well, you don't do this and you don't do that and you don't do this, all these people don't understand why I never had a lot of profanity in my videos when I go live, because now normally I don't really curse that much unless I'm just letting loose. But in my product, I try to take out all profanity because there's no need for it. I have the words to say that's on my mind. Plus, they look for a way to try to take you down. So when they use that as an angle to try to take down black men, white guys can curse all the time. That's when they had to start allowing people back to cursing. And they tried to come and take me down before, and they couldn't do it because they was like, well, there's no profanity. We scanned it. We couldn't find an angle. So they went through my hip hop truth behind videos, all of them, and it was like no profanity in them. So they were like, man, there's no profanity in there. There's no profanity. It's not profane. We can't do anything. So it became a problem for them. You know, it became real problematic for them to maintain. Now, moving forward, all of these people started to make adjustments for the actions that took place. Because there's a people out there that doesn't really they don't really understand it. Now, Ryan Clark could easily go get another job somewhere. He could take the Pivot podcast. ESPN wouldn't, tag that show, but it'll be another one that he can get a licensing deal with. But they like Pat McAfee's show. Why? Because that fits with more of a conservative style. So, of course, they're going to love that show. Even though it's not a conservative show at all, Pat McAfee rarely touches those type of topics. He's more surface level than anything you've ever seen. But he curses all the time. So they had to come to a conclusion with him because of the policy that this guy's going to be on television using words that can't be on television. How are we going to get around this? That was the concern because it was Pat McAfee. So they said, well, here, we'll allow you to do slight cursing on television. Right? So because all the black leaders were starting to look at ESPN saying, hey, y'all look real racist over here. This is not good. Then you find out Ryan Clark did not walk out of the show because he got laid off. That's what they wanted to sell to Outkick when ESPN knew the truth all along. They gave him the news and he says, oh man, like, what do you want? Do you want me to leave right now? And they were like, yes. So ESPN wanted him to leave the air right away with 10 more minutes to go into the programming. So that's why he didn't, when they came back from break, Ryan Clark wasn't on the screen. So he was like, because he asked them, do I finish the show? And they were like, so do you want me to not finish the show? And they was like, yes, don't finish the show. So that's why he didn't finish the show. Because he's professional. He's not going to just walk off. But they let it stage and they let that run as the narrative because they want to have their opinions to try to humiliate him. Now, he's supposed to headline, what's that? The Mecca Football Media Day on ESPN Plus. So he's going to like attend the media day. Yeah, I guess this one day that he's going to show up and do is going to be a big thing for him. Now, Sophie Cunningham is another situation. ESPN wanted to push more stories about Sophie Cunningham. This is what Jaylen Brown was talking about. So now y'all finna get into the area of the Patreon. This is what you normally would see on the Patreon or hear on the Patreon. I'm glad you guys are here. Hit the like button, strap up, because if you're ready for some news, you finna get it now. If you ever didn't have any news before, don't say you didn't get any now, because this is exactly the kind of news you're going to want to hear. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Now, Sophie Cunningham made a statement, or she did an interview somewhere on a podcast or whatever the podcast may be. ESPN bosses, and this is what Jaylen Brown was talking about, is the ESPN bosses would pick up what Sophie Cunningham said and cut it into a program like to be mentioned on ESPN, but it came from the front office. And this is why Jaylen Brown says, I already know they don't have any ideas. These storylines and stuff and ideas come from up top. Bert Mangus and Jimmy Pitaro will have a direction. Most of these people speak directly to them and they find out what's on the board for the day. What is the topic? What is trending? What is a topic we're just going to discuss? And it says, hey, we got this hot news. Oh, what is it? We want to go to the second part of the lineup. We got Sophie and Cunningham. Yeah, she just did a thing and she's talking about the game and the coaching, the dog. And, we want to give an uplifting message for them. She's talking about life and how Caitlin Clark is being targeted, and they're out to get her. So it's weird because I ran into this person yesterday and had the same attitude towards moving forward. As far as information, he says, "Oh yeah, moving forward. Oh gosh." Bert Mangus, they will run a story down there 24/7. Jaylen Brown speaking out, talking about Stephen A. Smith, the way he was and calling him a puppet. ESPN gave Stephen A. Smith the green light to talk about Jaylen Brown any old way he could. Why do you think it was approved? They don't care. They know what the problem is. Do you think he could have talked about any other player he didn't like? You think he could talk about LeBron James like that on that platform? If LeBron mentioned anything about him, Cam Newton made a big mistake. When he got on his platform and told them, hey, I can do what I want to do. It reminded me what Mace said when I talked with Mace. What Mace say on the Patreon? What did he say? He said Jaylen Brown made one mistake. He told them what he was going to do. Had he just did it without saying nothing about it, then they wouldn't be trying to shut him down. But you talking about building Black Wall Street in Boston? No. But who gave the permission to go after Jaylen Brown for speaking his piece? Burt Mangus. Greenlit it. So Jaylen Brown, who's a divergence to the system, let's tear him down because he does not share the ideals, but he shared how it works in the business. He says they're going to come after me. Now, why would they come after this man? You want to know why? Because he knows too much. He knows the stories come from up top because they fed stories about the Celtics all the time. They'll say, hey, Boston's running this now, so we need to have this promo done for the Celtics. The front PR people, they contact the guys at ESPN. They get Burke and say, Burke, hey, we want you guys to lead with a hot story. Just so they know. Then 10 minutes later, it'll come out of their mouth on TV. It's like, now watch this. Watch the show. It'll be up after the commercial break. And they'd be like, oh, we have breaking news. Do you remember blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah? Yeah, well, here it is. The Boston Celtics today are doing this and this and this. They get their message from up top. And Jaylen Brown knows it, and I know it. So it was very easy to decipher. Ryan Clark thought Stephen A. Smith had power. Yeah, but the thing is, he said, I don't like the way that was worded. No, but his thing was that if you're going to build it, now what? When you tell people your moves, this is why in business, people don't like to tell what they're doing because other people try to plot to stop you and then probably take what you were building and put their name on it and do it themselves. That's how it happens in business. All of them are cutthroat. Burger King's trying to cut the throat of McDonald's and cut in on something that they don't know. McDonald's see Burger King doing something, say, hey, we got to go on top of that. Let's copy what they doing and just come right with it. That's how business is done. Right. A player that's pro-Palestine, Palestine, or however you want to pronounce it. That seems to be a problem. But why would that be a problem for the NBA? Why would you take their political feelings and put that into this? So now they're thinking about bringing back Skip Bayless, who's like 80 years old. What are you going to do with Skip? Skip was already old school when all of this was happening. Now, the letter of the law is saying you don't upset the apple cart. It's terrible. They'll figure it out one day. A lot of them are not smart to figure it out. They mess themselves up. And the reason they mess themselves up because they get started too late. It's like, man, you could have been done that. If they wanted to help out, they could have been done it. I was like, man, y'all could have been done it. Now the whole world is trying to figure out scenarios and situations. Most of these people always go after the person that doesn't speak the most. That's the nature of this business. They always go after the person that speaks the least in the situation. Right. Like he said, hey, look, you're chasing clicks. Jalen Rose said the same thing happened with Jalen Rose. But take it back to Maria Taylor, what I told you. And they brought Malika Andrews all the way up from no experience whatsoever in journalism, the smallest resume in the history of sports, to be pushed all the way up to the top of the ladder to be hosting and covering sideline reporting an NBA basketball finals because they wanted to show, hey, we're not racist. And put her side by side with Maria Taylor to try to cover up the leak of that tape. And it was a black woman that worked for ESPN who leaked that tape out, the audio, because she was offended after they tried to publicly shame Maria Taylor, saying she wants to get the same money as Stephen A. Smith. And she had never said that in her life and try to mess her up in the game while she's in negotiations to go someplace else. Well, when you look at the scenarios and you start to see what's happening, and you're saying, man, this is just bad. Oh, hell no. No, no, bro. Man, are you kidding me? You know, when all of this stuff was happening, people were coming in from a whole different perspective. So Sophie Cunningham keeps putting out these stories and they feed it right to ESPN. And they'll say, well, she didn't say anything. Her team and her people are putting that out about Caitlin Clark. And they have this agenda to try to make Caitlin Clark the victim. And they was like, oh, no, it's not like that. Yes, it is. They push those narratives all the time. Just like they did with Maria Taylor, they're responsible for putting out those headlines that are reckless. And then if they don't want it to come from them, they leak it to their people. Like, who would think that Fox would be the one? So, well, Fox will put it out, but who talked to them from Fox? Now, if the active CEO of content is leaking stuff to the opposition, that's a dangerous thing to have going. But why would that be the case? Why would you have a guy like that in charge that's in there leaking information to the opposition? If that had been black, he'd have been fired already. They'd attracted, investigated it, fired him. But because it's Burt Mangus, they're going to let it slide. They have anonymous ESPN sources that are leaking the information that it is Burt. Everybody is, they're not protecting him. Nobody's out there trying to protect old Burt. They were like, man, F Burt. See, that's why they can't handle my energy. They can't handle it. He said, Sino, you follow the YouTube guidelines. Yes, I try to. You know, I make it my duty to try to do that. So I thank you for noticing. I think I'm Malcolm X. No, not Malcolm X. Well, Gil gonna make a deal. You know that. And then he gonna, he'll tell on anybody. You're a rat. So that rat gonna do what he gonna do to get to the cheese. So when those scenarios start coming, people can start making their observations about what they should do, what they shouldn't do, how it should go, how it shouldn't go. It's a lot of scenarios that people could take and go to an extreme with. They don't want anyone to see it. That's the thing. They don't want anybody to have that narrative. They don't want you to have that one up on them. You know how somebody said, man, he gonna try to one up you. They don't want anybody to have that one up. No. Well, no. If you do that, then you got to make it happen. If I had to learn the word narrative from the Breakfast Club, then I don't. I need to go back to school. No, he's related to Darian's mother's side, so he's on their side of the family, which would explain a lot. So he's related to Darian and Diana. Kiki Vanderway, that was nuts. No, please, they would never take that position because that's the way they want to go. So Burke got a lot to finish out, So they got a lot to finish up over there. But Burke did his thing. So now I'll just letting everybody answer their questions so I can answer them. I mean, what is he gonna do? Okay, he played 11 seasons. You talking about where he's going? No, but I don't care. I really don't. I think Golden State about tired of him. But look, I'm gonna tell you like this. All right. He played 11 years in Cleveland. 11. He turned around and had what, 8 years in LA and 4 in Miami. He won 2 championships in 4 years, going to the finals all 4 years in Miami. He got 1 championship in 11 seasons in Cleveland, 1 bubble championship in 8 years in LA. So what are we talking about? Dude didn't had like 2 careers, almost 3 careers in one damn career because he don't know how to sit down. And the league don't know how to get him out of it. No, I never saw it like that, but I'm glad y'all saw it like that. But I just didn't. But appreciate you though. Appreciate you. He said, I never thought somebody would play as long as Robert Parrish. Hey, Robert Parrish won a championship in his last season. And hated Michael Jordan while he was winning it. This don't change nothing. You still ain't better than Larry Bird. Mm-hmm. For sure. But anyway, let me get some work done, and I'm gonna be back hollering at you guys. Peace.